Now it is evening. So, good evening. Welcome all. And Namaste. This is Dr. Aparna. I am your emotional healing synergist. I am an Ayurvedic psychotherapist, a passionate infopreneur, medical writer, and a budding YouTuber. So, in my pursuit to address, promote, and propagate Ayurveda and psychotherapy globally, I come up with discussions every week on Ayurveda, psychotherapy, mental health, and related aspects. So, last session we were talking on Bhagavad Gita, mind, psyche, and mental health, redefining or re envisioning mental health through the lens of Bhagavad Gita. So this session is a continuation session where we're gonna talk about the practical applications and some scientific studies. Contemplating and integrating the essence of Bhagavad Gita into the modern psychology or modern psychoanalysis or psychotherapy concepts. So how is Bhagavad Gita practically applicable to modern psychology and psychotherapy methods? So there are many researches and scientific studies being done on Bhagavad Gita. So to start with, we were talking of, just to recap, we were in the last session, talking of Bhagavad Gita and what does Bhagavad Gita has to, actually imbibe into us, the Bhagavad Gita and the mental health, the self awareness, and the mind being to practice the detached attachment, the self awareness, and the mindfulness, the detachment and non attachment. We had discussed everything. We had discussed the principle, the three principles which have been emphasized by the Bhagavad Gita, that are the management of mind, the management of duty, and the principles of self management. So we also discussed that the significance of self mastery and self improvement as mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. So, and we also discussed about the restless mind, the chanchalam hi manaha, Krishna question 2, and we also discussed with practice, that means abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihyate, that means through continuous practice and with detachment it is possible to control our mind. We talked about the steady mind. If you want to know in detail about all these which I just brushed up, you can go and refer to the previous session, and I would recommend you to first go to that session and come to this, because um, this is a continuation session and you will understand and comprehend it better if you go through the first one, if you refer the first one. So here, as I said, today we are contemplating and integrating the essence of Bhagavad Gita to modern psychology or psychoanalysis or methods of psychotherapy. So, I while I was going through, some researches, I just found out, some analysis, or some correlation to cognitive and like rational emotive approach. See, the cognitive distortions, misinterpretations that are mentioned in the modern psychology is also mentioned, has a mention in Sankhya Yoga. And the emphasis on work with renunciation, the karma yoga, and jnana karma sannyasa yoga, everything, these concepts are mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. So insight oriented approach is mentioned under the concept of jnana vijnana yoga. So all these concepts are can be studied. The modern psychology aspects can be correlated or studied, and they have the foundations or the fundamentals from the yoga, from the Vedas, from the Puranas, from the Bhagavad Gita, from the Upanishads. So it's just that I found, I was reading and I thought it would be good to share that we have everything, like the hypnosis, what we call, is mentioned under the name called Vishwarupa Sandarshana Yoga. So I have to go through it, but I'm not an expert in hypnosis. But for the people who are interested in hypnosis, or can refer to this Vishwarupa Sandarshana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. So, what I was telling was, last session I mentioned that if you want to know more about detached attachment, so I've got questions on what is detached attachment, what is the concept, to be detached and to be attached. So, detached attachment means be attached, but also be prepared to let go. That means detached attachment is when you out, go off control and allow your possessions to come and pass. You feel like you are not the owner but a caretaker. Appreciate, while it belongs to you, and when the time comes, let go as if it was never meant for you. So for example, let me first, you have you own you or you started or you founded a company, and you have it for, you run it for 20 to 25 years. But when you have to, after a period of time, you have to let go of the chairmanship and the directorial position you own in the company. Detached attachment is you being attached to the company as a caretaker, but when the time comes, you let it go. You let the chairman position or the director position of yours to, you can transfer that to another deserved a candidate. So that is detached attachment, that you still care about the position, the company, but you're not, you don't think that you are owner. The ownership factor, is detached. So if you have that detached attachment, if you have that quality, what happens, it is easy for you to let go of that position when the time comes. Second, if you have to, we'll talk about more examples in the coming. See, like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna that acting with detachment means doing the right thing for its own sake, but because it needs to be done without worrying about success or failure. Here in Bhagavad Gita, it is mentioned that we all know, we all have at some point heard this shloka called karmanyavadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. So concentrate on your karma, not on the fruits, not on the results. Here detachment in the Bhagavad Gita is mentioned in this way. So do not worry about the success or failure. Doing the right thing is important. So, detachment here takes practice. You need to work on it day by day to instill it in your life. So, as someone who has been practicing this for quite some time now, so see, I have been trying to practice. It is difficult to practice detached attachment because the things you own or the people you feel that you are very much attached to, it is actually difficult to be detached, emotionally detached, or not to be entangled. So attachment and detachment, what is it? So finding a balance, for your relationships. How? The hallmark of healthy attachment to another person is marked by safety in the relationship, like showing concern for others, enjoying spending time with them, and feeling connected. These are all elements of healthy attachment. There is permission to be one's own self without fear of judgment. So attachment becomes unsafe when it entwines our emotional, physical, and mental energy with another person. I will explain it with an example. See, we become obsessed with one relationship. Sometimes we expect another person to meet our every need, or maybe we expect that of ourselves for others. Trying to meet every need of another person is an impossible superhuman task that sets up us up for failure. That means, see, when attachment becomes unhealthy, we may feel the need to detach from the relationship. So, detaching can begin with, see, before going into the concept, let's take some examples. Simplest example: when a child is an infant and a toddler, a child is very much attached to the mother. So much so that there is no privacy for the mother. Even if you go to a bathroom, or for few seconds, even if you have to take a shower, the child, or the infant or the toddler up to 2 3 years of age, it is very much attached to you. It needs every bit of your time, care. But as soon as the child grows up, it is not attached to you so much. But how do you practice detached attachment? A mother may feel at that time ki, uh, you know what, my son or my child has changed a lot, but it nothing has changed. If the values, the if your child loves you, and it is being raised with right values, there is nothing such that your child will not love you or show concern for you. The only different thing is the only difference is the needs, the priorities, the social circle, everything of your child changes as the child grows up. Your child will have now, you were the only first in the beginning, when it is a child and it is an infant or a toddler, that everything, you are everything to your child. Maybe mother or maybe parents, mother and father, you are everything to your child. But as the child grows up, it becomes a bit independent. It has a social circle, it now goes to school, the needs are changed, the priorities are changed, the child is exploring things on a daily basis, learning things on a daily basis. Maybe the time and the attachment it was giving to you, the child was giving to you, might the child is not too much. So if you practice detached attachment, then you are still attached to your child, but you let go your child, you are not obsessive of your child. And this helps you when your son or daughter grows up, when they have to go away from you, when you have to let them go. Suppose when when your son is marrying, you you are not, you will not be obsessed that your daughter-in-law will take away, matlab, she is taking away your son, because you know that you are still there for your son, but you are practicing a detached attachment, that you can let go of your son, in the sense they can stay separately or do as per their needs and priorities, but the love and the emotions still exist. That is detached attachment. So detaching can begin with setting a boundary in a relationship. So this detached attachment can be, examples could be, professionally or personally. So any kind of detaching can begin with setting a boundary in a relationship. It may mean saying no to someone you have always said yes to in the past. If you feel the need to agree with everything and everyone, it will naturally be uncomfortable when you voice an opinion that differs. So, detaching, when you think of detaching, it can begin with setting a boundary in a relationship. So, it means maybe saying no when it is required, because if you and sometimes we recognize that all our energy is being poured into a relationship, and it may be time to release our perceived control and let the person face the consequences of their choices. So as I said, your son or daughter, you have to at one point of time you have to release your perceived control over them, and let the person, live the life as the person wants to. So at this time detaching may feel really uncomfortable. So detachment does not mean that we do not care for someone. Detachment is a means of releasing another person to be responsible for themselves. Continuing the example, you are releasing your son or daughter who are very close to you to be responsible for themselves. So we will see this example of a baby bird. Like, imagine holding a baby bird in the palms of your hands. If you open your hands too wide, the bird could slip out and fall to the ground unexpectedly. If you close your hands too tightly in an effort to protect it, the bird may suffocate from the lack of air. That means healthy attachment is act of both. When required, you hold it. When it is, the bird is ready, you can let it go. So that is called detached attachment. So healthy attachment is holding the bird with cupped hands, so it is free to try to fly but safely being held. So that is healthy attachment. When it is time for the bird to fly, you just let it go. The freedom to fly is important. This could be in any case. When you own a company, when the right time comes, you need to let it go. Let your chairmanship or the directorship, be transferred to a person who is eligible, or who is capable, or who is deserving for that position. That person may be from your family, may not be from your family, that's a different thing. So the freedom to fly is important, but the safety of being held is a part of the process. So in detaching from unhealthy relationships, that is how. And in sometimes what happens is you are constantly attached to a person who is toxic, to toxic relationships, the person who doesn't want you in his or her life. So letting go of or detaching from unhealthy relationships, we often, go to either extreme of protecting or releasing too quickly. So they are talking about the balance. So some steps, to practice for detached attachment: understanding your true self, how to identify yourself. That means, is your idea of true self. You have to identify your true self. That means the moment you understand that you are a spiritual being, a soul living in the human body and set on an individual journey, your way of perceiving things will change for better. So next, understanding the true nature of things. So accepting the nature, accepting everything as a natural phenomenon. We patiently wait for another one to bloom. Likewise, in life, if we accept the very nature of things and people as temporary and transitory, there will be no grief. So, and changing the perspective, everything is working for our greater good. For you, definitely, um, thinking that all that is happening is for the good, the detachment is for the good. And busting the myth, like practicing detachment in no way implies, see, practicing detachment means it is not that you are emotionally unavailable or you become a less compassionate person. Like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna that we are really supposed to give up not our families or our capacity for enjoyment, but our tendency to identify with our bodies and personalities of pure deathless awareness. That means you have to be attached to your family to that extent that one day you can let it go without any attachment. So, detached attachment is the optimal mantra. It will help us in many ways. Detached attachment will help us if we start practicing detached attachment. It will help us in many ways. Detached attachment is the optimal mantra where the feeling of ownership is eliminated with the feeling of custodianship. I am only a custodian for my son or daughter till they become responsible and they want to let go from us. That doesn't mean that you are a less compassionate or you don't love your children. Or for example, if you're taking an example of your chairmanship or directorship, you don't love the it doesn't mean that you don't love the company. But when it is time, you feel that you are just a custodian, you're not the owner. So an ownership feeling creates a sense of attachment in an implicit manner. That means you feel that you have to take control of whatever it is, of a person or of a possession. So, an ownership feeling creates a sense of attachment in an implicit manner, whereas a custodian feeling creates a sense of detachment with a pure sense of love. So, this is true in the case of spouse, children, parents, where one can continue to shower love, but the emotional attachment can be minimized so that you don't interfere or intrude into the ones you love. It could be a spouse, children, parents, or it could be something, some possession, some animal, whatever it may be. So see, let's now, this is the concept of detached attachment. I hope I have explained it. If you have any queries, you can ask in the comment section. So, one way in which the Gita, now coming back to Bhagavad Gita. See, one way in which the Gita has been understood in psychology is through comparing the dialogue that takes place between Lord Krishna and Arjuna with current psychotherapeutic approaches. That means what these approaches suggest is that the Gita depicts what may be one of the earliest documented sessions of cognitive behavioral therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy is a form of psychotherapy which is done for mental health issues. That is a modern name for a psychotherapy, modern coin term for a form of psychotherapy. So this, Gita depicts the documented sessions of one of the earliest forms of cognitive behavioral therapy, so in which Lord Sri Krishna is a psychotherapist and Arjuna is the client. So, it is proposed that Arjuna exhibits various kinds of negative automatic thoughts along with cognitive distortions. So, Lord Krishna's discourse may be seen as analogous, that means a simile to psychoeducation for persons dealing with symptoms of anxiety. So here Arjuna, what happens is he is anxious because he is fighting with his own family, with his own brothers. So he exhibits various kinds of negative thoughts, and he has so many cognitive distortions and ambiguities here. So Arjuna's feelings of stress, of possible threat and compulsion to fight against own relatives are described. He says that, Sidanti mama gatrani mukham cha parishusyati ve- vepatushya sharirena romaharshashcha dayate tvakchaiva paridahyate. So here Arjuna expresses the concerns which are happens in the anxiety. So limbs of my body are quivering, he says. His The limbs of his body, he is experiencing weakness is his in his limbs, and his mouth is drying up. His whole body is trembling. He has goosebumps, and his skin is burning over. Why is this happening? Is because of he is feeling stressed and he's anxious, because he feels that it is a compulsion for him to fight against his own relatives. So and he also says, my master weapon, the Gandhiva, is falling from my hand. So he expresses his anxiety and the symptoms to Krishna here. This is what happens in anxiety. So here there are so many researchers and psychologists who suggest similarity between CBT and the nature of dialogue. CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy, and the nature of dialogue between Lord Krishna and Arjuna. So, the author suggests that just as the main focus of CBT is to make affirmative alterations in the thinking of patients and interpretations they lend to events, Lord Krishna attempts to change not the situation of the war itself, but Arjuna's perceptions of the reasons for the war. Here Arjuna here one study done by a psychologist suggests that similarity between CBT and what happens, the dialogues between Lord Krishna and Arjuna. So here Lord Krishna is not attempting to change the situation of the war, but he is attempting to change Arjuna's perception of the reasons for the war. You're not He explains to him, that you're not fighting the war because he explains the reasons why he is fighting the war, to change his perception that they are his relatives, and gives reasons to Arjuna for fighting the war. So study conducted that extends the comparison between the Gita and psychotherapeutic approaches to humanistic existential therapy. They suggest that just as humanistic and existential approaches focus on the importance of self awareness and self understanding to achieve personal growth, the Gita also talks about self knowledge that leads to the attainment of peace. So here in another study, it is the Gita and the humanistic existential therapy are compared. So, humanistic existential therapy talks on self awareness, self understanding, and personal growth. Here, Bhagavad Gita also talks about personal growth, self knowledge, self reflection that leads to attainment of peace. So, in another study, this identifies elements within the Gita which may be similar to interpersonal therapy. So they have, they are can be, they were compared to different types of modern therapies, so psychotherapies, such as the emphasis on re-establishing interests and relationships that can help patients cope with grief. So, the emphasis on role and transitions and on building self esteem are other similarities that have been identified between interpersonal therapy. The interpersonal therapy is, also a part of it, also, recognizes and emphasizes on building self esteem in the patients who, in the people who have low self esteem or who suffer with issues of self esteem, and the approach that Lord Krishna uses with Arjuna. So, and likewise, it is also like some researchers have considered Gita to represent the first documented session of rational emotive behavior therapy. So there is something called rational emotive behavioral therapy. It was, proposed by Albert Ellis in 1957. So, and the Gita encourage individuals to pursue happiness and assume that while humans have limitations, they do have the potential to grow. So both the, rational emotive behavior therapy, REBT, and Bhagavad Gita teachings are believe in self determination and creating their own, mental well being. So, and what is the potential for building well being and resilience? How is it explained in Bhagavad Gita? And how is it correlated by, psychologists? We'll see the case studies as well. So, some psychologists have been exploring the potential of the ideas presented in the Gita for fostering well-being and resilience. How to foster, how to develop well-being, overall well-being and resilience among individuals. For instance, there are three parts of one study, writes, mentions about three parts of Bhagavad Gita presented for building resilience during the COVID 19 pandemic. So, the first is Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga is, the path of knowledge which provides insights into the nature of self and can help to shift our thoughts from I to we. So this, study was done in 2020. So it, here there are three parts. It mentions about the three parts of the Bhagavad Gita presented for building resilience during the COVID pandemic. So the first one is Jnana Yoga. That is, Jnana Yoga is the path of knowledge, which provides insights to the true nature of self and can help shift our thoughts from I and we mode, much needed in pandemic times. The second is called Karma Yoga. So, there is also the path of Karma Yoga, that is the path of action, which teaches us to act in a way that is selfless and free from attachment. The third path offered by the Gita is Raja Yoga, the path of meditation. Raja Yoga is the path of meditation. So, Jnana Yoga is the path of knowledge, Karma Yoga is the path of action, Raja Yoga is the path of meditation. Just as a Raja maintains control, over his kingdom, one must maintain control over the vast territories of one's mind. So, as just as Raja controls his kingdom, we must control our mind. So, what it does is this encourages discipline and a healthy way of life that can protect one from the virus. So, the first case study here. So, um, people first in this first case study, it explores how the four D's elaborated in the Gita, that it elaborated in the Bhagavad Gita, that is detachment, duty, doership, and dhyana, the four D's. So dhyana is meditation, so may be useful in aiding healthcare workers faced with moral and psychological distress during COVID-19 pandemic. So this study was done to provide aids, means provide help or support to the healthcare workers who faced um, moral and psychological distress during the COVID-19 pandemic because of the stress and the overload. The four D's were detachment, duty, doership, and dhyana. So in one study, 300 students who had completed a course on the text provided feedback on the impacts they had experienced. So, a large number mentioned experiencing, they had, what happened is in 300 students were given to read the Bhagavad Gita text, and um, they completed a course on the insights of the Bhagavad Gita. So after they completed it, you know they were given to provide feedback on the impact they had experienced after completing the course. A large number mentioned experiencing overall positive effects. So when they started doing the course, and side by side they started, they were healthcare workers, so they were working with the patients. So what happened is they had a better perception of life. They had all the positive effects, so they had clarity of thought, they had positive attitude, they had inner peace and the ability to deal with stress with a calm and content disposition, and the development of leadership and problem solving abilities. So they developed all these, and they have mentioned this in the feedback. So they had a better perception of life, they had a clarity of thought, they had positive attitude, they had, inner peace and the ability to deal with stress, calm and content disposition, and development of leadership and problem solving abilities. Just they had completed a course on Bhagavad Gita, and the insights which were given in those, in second case study, in one of the studies, they implemented a pre post, three quasi, experimental design with 13 to 16-year-old students. What the aim was to address discipline issues and diminishing moral values among the youth. So they had an agenda to address discipline issues and diminishing moral values among the youth, in the sense they took the children around 13 to 16-year olds. So the group 1, the control group, received the regular course of study followed by schools in which the area was, where the study was conducted. So the first group, which was called the control group, they received, regular school education. The second group was provided an intervention that incorporated concepts and ideas from Bhagavad Gita along with other Indian texts. So here the group 2 was provided with an extra intervention. So they incorporated concepts and ideas and insights and from the Bhagavad Gita and other Indian texts. So the group 3 was given an intervention based on Western positive psychology. So there were three groups. So this group 3 was given an intervention based on Western positive psychology. So what were the results? The results showed that the intervention provided to the group 2 was the most successful. That means the group 2 which was provided with an intervention of the incorporated concepts and ideas of the Bhagavad Gita were the students who were most successful. So the author, the who conducted the study, attributed the outcomes to you know um, profundity inherent in the Gita's ideas. So the clarity which was inherent in the Bhagavad Gita's ideals, and the ease with which you know it was it could be practiced with focusing on mantras, and the effects of the aim was to discipline and inculcate moral values among the youth, which was diminishing. So that was successful in the group 2 more than the group 3, and group 1 children were unaffected. So this what this helps us in doing is we can easily get to a conclusion that the Bhagavad Gita, if we incorporate Bhagavad Gita into the textbooks, the lessons of Bhagavad Gita or the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, then there is an impact in the discipline, in the moral values, and in the to deal the challenges with positivity and with calm. So here are some studies I came up with while I was going through what should I discuss in the in the session in this session. So I found it very interesting, and I found it I thought it would be very much useful if I share this, because in the last session also I said that I feel that teachings of from Bhagavad Gita, Vedas and Upanishads should be incorporated in the school textbooks, like as small bits and chapters here and there, or as a subject. So what happens is that will help our children with to cope with all the stress and anxiety and the challenges they face in the day to day life. I wish I could have had that privilege. So this comes to the end of the session, because we are already 44 minutes into the session. So I will continue the session. I'll continue the topic in the next session. So thank you for staying tuned. If you have any queries, or if you have any key takeaways, or if you have found something interesting about Bhagavad Gita and mental health, if you are also researching on it, you can comment your learnings. And if you have some important learnings and insights to share with us, definitely you can share with us. So thank you for staying tuned, and I'll see you in the next session. Namaste.